Hello, everyone, and welcome to our meet and greet today. My name is Laurabeth Goldsmith, and I'll be your host today. I'm so excited to have all of you here with us to learn a bit more about the Virtual MUN Institute, Model UN, and Best Delegate. Before we get started, I'd love to get a sense of who is here with us today. So if you don't mind, if you would please introduce yourself in the chat. If you're on Zoom and you click on the bottom of your screen, you'll see a chat button. And if you'll share with us your first name, where you're from, your child's grade, and if they've ever done Model UN before, that would be great so we can get an idea of who we have here with us today. So again, if you're just joining us, if you don't mind introducing yourself in the chat, please share your first name, where you're from, your child's grade, and if your child's ever done Model UN before. And if they've ever done one of our programs with Best Delegate, please feel free to share that as well. Welcome from the United Kingdom. Great to have you here. Awesome. And for anyone else joining, please feel free to introduce yourself anytime as we get started. Great to hear we have some students of all ages. So just a few notes for today's event. Please feel free to keep yourself muted when you're not talking. That way everybody can be engaged in the event. We also will have a couple of fun activities for you to get an idea of what our programs are like. Please feel free to participate in those as much as you're comfortable with. And if you have any questions throughout our program today, please feel free to drop them into the chat box and we will do our best to answer all of those as well. So I want to take a second and just tell you a little bit about me and about our team before we get started. My name is Laurabeth Goldsmith, and I'm the Executive Director of Partnerships at Best Delegate, which basically means I have the awesome job of getting to work with all of our students, parents, schools, even the United Nations and governments to set up Model UN programs that are sustainable and student-led and help to really empower students. I personally have been doing Model UN for over 15 years, and it's had a huge impact on my life. It's helped me to gain a tremendous amount of confidence and to be really comfortable doing all sorts of things from public speaking to presenting to working with diplomats and everything in between. And I personally have gotten to travel all over the world to all 7 continents and over 60 different countries. And I'm really passionate about helping students understand global issues and perspectives different than their own. So I love MUN and I'm very, very excited to be able to share more about Model UN and about the Best Delegate programs with the team. I've been part of the team at Best Delegate for the last 6 years, and I'm very excited to be able to share more about all of those options. And I'd also love to go ahead and tell you a little bit about what to expect today during our event. We're going to start by talking a little bit about Model United Nations and answering the most common questions that we've gotten on what is Model UN and the benefits of MUN. And then we're going to do a little interactive activity. And for those of you that want to participate in this, you're welcome to do so. So you can get a sense of some of the things that we do at our programs to help students develop confidence. We're then going to share a little bit more about our summer 2021 MUN camps that are available, and you'll get a chance to meet and greet our students and mentors as part of the program today as well. So without further ado, I would love to introduce to everyone a special guest, Ryan Villanueva, who is Best Delegate's co-founder and Chief Education Officer, and he's going to talk to us a little bit more about his background and about Best Delegate as well. Thanks, Ryan.
Thank you, Laurabeth, and thank you everyone for making today's webinar, for taking time out of your day to learn about Model United Nations and the Virtual MUN Institute. My name is Ryan. I'm Best Delegate's co-founder and Chief Education Officer. I've been involved in Model UN for over 20 years at this point. I started as a high school freshman growing up in Southern California. Model UN introduced me to global issues. It helped me develop my skills in public speaking, communication, and leadership, and it helped me get into university. I went to Yale, where I led their Model UN program, organized their conferences. And again, all the skills and the knowledge and the network that Model UN provided me as a college student helped me launch my career. And I went to work on Wall Street. I was at Goldman Sachs starting in 2008 at the height of the global financial crisis, which I'm sure many of you here recall from 10 years ago. And I had that experience for a couple of years. And at the end of that, I decided I did not want to work in finance anymore. I wanted to go to something where I felt like I could make an impact. And that one thing for me was Model United Nations. In college, I had started a blog about Model UN called bestdelegate.com. And I thought I was done with MUN. And that's why I started the blog. I thought I would just pass on my knowledge and move on. And instead, I decided to take that blog, partner with one of my best friends. His name is Kevin Felix Chan. In the MUN world, we call him KFC. And 10 years ago, we started this company, Best Delegate. And over the last 10 years, the company has grown from that blog to the world's leading resource for learning Model United Nations. And over the past 10 years, we've been on a journey, on a mission to promote Model United Nations all over the world. And that's because I personally believe, and everyone on my team, all of whom did Model UN, we believe that Model United Nations empowers students to be confident leaders and change makers in their communities. That Model UN, I believe, is the most impactful extracurricular activity and co-curricular activity that students can do today. And it is so transformative that every child in the world deserves the opportunity to do Model United Nations. And that's our mission here at Best Delegate, MUN for all. And that's what we're doing through the virtual MUN Institute. And over the last 10 years, we've had the privilege of working with thousands of students, over 5,000 students that have gone through our MUN Institute programming, as well as teachers. We train educators, professors, and we consult for schools and governments and the United Nations on Model UN. We've our online resources, that blog that I started, again, 10 years ago, has been read by over 5 million people at this point, 5 million readers over the last 10 years, and active in all 193 UN member states. We've physically traveled to over 26 countries and territories to teach Model United Nations. And we've hosted participants. Our programs have attracted students from over 100 countries. We've been doing Model UN over the last decade, and we're not stopping anytime soon. And we're on a mission to help the world learn Model United Nations, to create student leaders and global citizens. And for us, it's in support of the world's biggest goals, which we teach students about, the Sustainable Development Goals, and the need for students to learn global citizenship and leadership. And that's why we do Model United Nations. This is our extreme focus. There are other activities out there. I'm sure your students are involved in a range of activities, from athletics to music to speech and debate, and those are all awesome. For us, we focus exclusively on Model United Nations. We are experts at it. Again, we consult for schools, for national governments, and the United Nations on how to engage students and create global citizens through Model UN. And part of the reason why we're experts at this is because we make it easy. We know, growing up doing Model UN, the challenges that we went through as students and that we saw our teachers go through as students. And that's why I started the blog, and that's why we do this training, is because we make Model UN easy and fun to learn. And that's why students love Model UN and love our programs. And the ultimate outcome, which I know Laurabeth is going to talk about more, is at the end, your students are going to learn how to research global issues. They're going to learn how to do public speaking. They're going to learn how to work and collaborate and negotiate with other students. And at the end of the day, what it does, it builds up their self-esteem, and it builds up their confidence as student leaders. And that's what we do here at Best Delegate. And that's what we do at the virtual Model United Nations Institute. Laurabeth?
Thank you very much, Ryan. I want to share a little bit more about Model UN and the impact that it can have on students, and why students should engage with the world through Model United Nations. First and foremost, at our Model UN camps and programs, students just don't learn about it, they live it. They actually get to step into the shoes of world leaders to discuss and debate global problems. And they really prepare to solve some of the world's biggest issues. And there's a topic for every student's interest. We have topics about climate change and the Olympics, and about clean water, and about gender equality and racial justice and nuclear disarmament, and so many important issues. And so what we have is, at our program, students get to pick the topics and weeks that interest them most and spark their passion to help learn about and solve real world issues. Also, like Ryan mentioned, at all of our programs, students really increase their confidence while debating as diplomats. They get more confident in speaking. They get more confident in debating with other students. And also, these skills translate into the real world for them. They take that same confidence into school, into job interviews, into college interviews, and into their lives. It's also a great opportunity for students to collaborate with friends from across the globe. While there are many challenges of being virtual this year and that the pandemic has had on people's lives, one of the benefits is that students get to make friends from around the world and really enjoy interacting with their peers. It's also a great opportunity for students to be guided by and inspired by fantastic MUN mentors. We have mentors that we recruit from some of the top colleges in the country and the top Model UN programs that are here to help provide feedback and guide your students step by step through their Model UN journey. And also, Model UN is fun. It is a great way to really be engaged in your learning, especially right now. That's a challenge for a lot of students, but Model UN makes it fun and easy to participate and to enjoy doing a fun learning activity with other friends. And so I want to share a little bit more about the summer 2021 Virtual MUN Institute experience. And before I get into the details, I want to give you a little preview of one of the types of activities that we do with our students at our summer programs. And so I'm actually going to turn things over to Georgina, who is one of our program mentors who works with students during the summertime to help guide us through a little bit of a preview of one of the types of activities that our students enjoy.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Laurabeth. As Laurabeth mentioned, hi, my name is Georgina, and I'm one of the Model UN mentors with the Virtual Model UN Institute. So I want to take this opportunity to allow you to get some more insight into the activities that your students might experience over the course of this summer. So this public speaking game is called Word Sneak, and it's absolutely one of our favorites in terms of getting students to participate and really getting them involved in each of these activities. So I'm going to request that all of you, our parents, help me out with this activity. Here's how this game goes. I need each of you to type random words into the chat box. It can be anything from unicorn to country to toothpaste to breakfast, any words at all. So feel free to start typing those random words into the chat box. Once there are a couple of words in there, I'll choose 3 of them. And my job is to give an impromptu speech in which I string all 3 of those words together. So really using public speaking skills, as well as those impromptu skills to challenge myself to deliver a speech. All right, let's see. I see water, beach, and let's see. All right, I'm gonna go with water, beach, and pandemic. All right. Give me just a second to think about it, and then I'll get started. Ladies and gentlemen, as you are probably aware, we currently find ourselves in the midst of a global pandemic. Now, what does this mean? This means that it's been almost a year since I've been able to travel to the beach. It means I'm missing out on my favorite water sports. I'm missing out on my favorite summer adventures. I'm missing out on the opportunity to travel with my friends and engage with the world around me. Now, moving forward, I'm going to find new ways to experience the water and experience the world around me and find ways to combat the boredom from the pandemic. Thank you. So with that, I gave a quick speech in which I strung those words together and really used my own experiences to create a fun public speaking game, which is just one of the many games that your students might experience at the Virtual Model UN Institute this summer. And with that, I'll turn it back over to you, Laurabeth.
Thank you very much, Georgina. So that's just one example of many of the types of games that we play with students. Our programs are very, very interactive, and so that every day students get to speak, get feedback from their mentors and their peers, and grow and learn, sometimes in really fun and engaging ways, like with these types of activities. So now what I want to do is share with everybody a little bit of a preview video of what our summer programs are all about before we get into our meet and greet portion of the event today.
The Virtual Model United Nations Institute is more than an online summer camp. It is a world-class academic program that helps students become confident leaders that are passionate about global issues and can change the world.
So my daughter is a rising sophomore. This past year was her first experience with Model UN. She absolutely fell in love with it.
Model United Nations is an educational activity where students step into the shoes of world leaders to debate global issues from the perspective of the country they're chosen to represent. More than that, Model UN gives students the opportunity to connect with their peers, build their social skills, and make new friends while having fun together. In just 1 week, your child will be transformed. They will gain confidence and learn about the world and themselves. Their everyday activities will include engaging lessons, fun activities, in-depth feedback, skill-building labs, and much more.
The program this summer was tremendous. I got to grow alongside my fellow delegates, and we got to know each other not just on the Model UN field, but as friends.
Your child will be inspired by and led by our Model UN mentors, who will provide one-on-one feedback on their public speaking and debate skills. We also offer private coaching sessions for students to get additional one-on-one feedback and guidance from our expert MUN mentors.
My MUN mentor is absolutely amazing. She's helped me develop my public speaking and made me feel a lot more comfortable speaking in a room full of a lot of people. And with that, I've developed a lot of close relationships with a lot of the other students.
Over the course of just 1 week, students will participate in practice Model UN simulations, and it all leads up to a final MUN simulation. Each week at the MUN Institute has different global themes that students will focus on, from gender equality and eliminating poverty to nuclear disarmament and United Nations peacekeeping. Students can attend multiple weeks to get a dynamic experience with different topics.
If you're thinking about signing up, you should definitely do it. The program is really fun and engaging.
The virtual MUN Institute has programs for students from grade 5 to grade 12 with any level of MUN experience. Our beginner programs start by teaching the fundamentals of research, writing, negotiation, and public speaking to help students become more confident leaders. Our advanced programs help students become award-winning strategic delegates, and our crisis program helps students learn about fast-paced and dynamic crisis-style committees.
I would highly recommend this program to other parents. The program itself runs so smoothly, and there's so many different areas that your children can get involved with and learn from. And the best part is they get to meet other kids that are like-minded.
Model United Nations will build your child's confidence, provide them with a supportive community, and inspire them to change the world. We'll see you this summer at the virtual Model United Nations Institute.
I hope that gave you a little bit of a preview of what our programs are like and how fun and interactive they really are for all of our students that participate. I'd love to share a little bit more about the different program options for students of different grade levels and ages, because this was a common question that I saw from parents in advance. So we have programs for students grades 9 through 12, primarily high school students entering those grades for next year. And there are 3 different options for students in those age and grade brackets. We have our Diplomat program, which is best for students that are new to Model UN. It really gives them the fundamentals of Model UN and helps them get more confident in their public speaking skills and their negotiation skills. It also teaches them the fundamentals about resolution writing and Model UN rules of procedure. So even if your student has experience in speech and debate or another activity, if they've never done Model UN before, we definitely recommend they get started in our Diplomat programming. Our ambassador programs are best for students with Model UN experience that really want to take their skills to the next level and become award-winning delegates. We have a lot of awesome topics that range all throughout the summer, so students can participate in multiple weeks of Diplomat, Ambassador, and Crisis programming to build their skills and to help them learn about a variety of global issues. And we also offer our crisis programs. And these are best for students that want to participate in crisis-style MUN simulations. And normally in Model UN, a student represents a country. In crisis-style committees, sometimes they get to represent an individual person in a cabinet simulation that might be looking at issues for a specific country or specific region of the world. So crisis committees are really fun, fast-paced, dynamic opportunities for students to work on their impromptu speaking skills and also really their creativity as well as they address rapidly unfolding global scenarios. So those are our 3 options for high school programs. For middle school programs, these are best for students entering grades 7 and 8 next school year. And we have 3 options again, just like in our high school programs. We offer a junior diplomat program for students that are new to Model UN, a junior ambassador program for students with advanced MUN experience, and a junior crisis program, which is best for students that are ready for crisis simulations. And even if your student has done Model UN before, even if they've done one of our programs before, we've revamped all of them and they're now focused on different themes each week. So it's no problem for a student to do multiple weeks of programming if they're interested in multiple different topics that we'll be covering throughout the summer. And for our elementary students, we have programs available for students entering grades 5 and 6. Specifically, we offer our mini diplomat program, and each week of our mini diplomat program, again, features a different topic that introduces students to relevant issues related to the UN Sustainable Development Goals. And it is a great chance for young students to build their confidence and their fundamental skills in public speaking, debating, learning about different countries, making alliances, writing, and more. And for all of our programs, we also have a special add-on that's available this year, which is private coaching. So for any student that wants additional one-on-one feedback outside of their 15 hours of programming that is built into the program week, we have this personalized feedback, which is 3 45-minute sessions that will happen during the week your student is attending the program. And their mentor will focus with them on specific skills. So on the Tuesday of the program, we'll be focused on building key skills in setting goals. On the next day, they get a mentoring session. They'll focus on research, opening speeches, and talking points. And on the final one-on-one private coaching session they have, they'll be focused on strategies to really help them excel in their final simulation. And by participating in the private coaching, it will help students gain even more confidence and even more growth during their program experience. And now I'd love for us to jump into our meet and greet. We have some awesome participants here with us. We have Anish, who is a student leader and mentor. We have Georgina, who is one of our MUN mentors. And we also have Ryan with us as well as Richard Zhao, who is an alumni of our program and a program manager. So if all of our panelists want to go ahead and turn their cameras on, you're welcome to do so. We're going to briefly have each of our panelists introduce themselves, and then we have some great questions that were sent in advance by parents. So you've gotten the opportunity to meet Ryan and I. Georgina, would you please briefly introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about your background and experience with Model United Nations?
Of course. So hello again, everyone. Once again, my name is Georgina, and I'm currently one of the Model UN mentors with the Virtual Model UN Institute. So a little bit more about my Model UN backstory and how I got started with this activity and the impact it's had for me. I started doing Model UN when I was in 8th grade, and it was because I was absolutely terrified of public speaking, which I'm sure that a lot of your children can definitely identify with. So anytime I got up to start giving a speech, step 1, my hands would start trembling like crazy. Step 2, my face would turn bright red. And step 3, I would want to run off that stage as quickly as possible. So I had a friend who I considered to be a mentor at the time. And she was like, hey, Georgina, you should try this really cool activity called Model UN. I walked into that first meeting and I never looked back. Model UN inspired in me a newfound confidence and also showed me how interesting and engaging the world around me was, and inspired me to attend George Humphrey University, as well as continue to work abroad after that. My university experience also culminated in a speech in front of 3,500 people, which 8th grade me would have never seen as a possibility. So Model UN completely changed my life, and I'm so excited to have the opportunity to be back teaching it to all of your students as well.
Thank you very much, Georgina. Next, I'd love to introduce Richard. Richard, would you please introduce yourself?
Absolutely. Thank you. Thank you, Laurabeth and Georgina. Welcome, everyone. Good to see all these enthusiastic parents looking to get their students more involved through the magical activity that is Model UN. For me, my story resembles very similar to Georgina. As a very young student, my goal, my dream, my aspirations was to become a lawyer. Now, I don't know about you guys, but I don't know many lawyers who don't know how to do public speaking or isn't good at interacting with people and communicating clearly. That was a skill that I was desperately lacking. And I found Model UN as a mechanism and as a main tool to really help me get over these challenges and hurdles. Throughout the last 6-7 years of my adult life, I've been staffing with Best Delegate for more than 4 or 5 years now. I was originally a student with the Model United Nations Institute, and that opened up a world of possibilities that allowed me to be the person that I am today. And Best Delegate as a whole organization was so encouraging for me, and I continued to come back year after year just because I always found more of a reason to really develop my skill set. After working with thousands of students and seeing the transformation of all of these young students and aspiring leaders. There's something very unique about Model UN that keeps drawing me back, and that's why I'm still with them. I'm still teaching with them as the program manager for our MUN teams. Our virtual Model United Nations Institute, in my opinion, is our best product in terms of it's just our best program. I think students have the most amount of fun. They have a blast being able to interact with students from all over the world, all over the country. And it's just a really fun time in which they can bond with like-minded individuals, as well as their MUN mentors, who I have the privilege of being one for more than 2 or 3 years. So yeah, that's my Model UN story. Pleased to let you guys know as well that through Model UN, right, I've gotten the opportunity to develop my skills, and more importantly, I will be starting law school in the fall, and it's really good to see how Model UN helped me begin this journey, and in a way help me end the journey as well. So let me know if you guys have any questions, and I'm really excited to be here today.
Thank you very much, Richard. And now I'd love for one of our incredible student leaders who's gone through our program to also introduce himself. Anish, would you please?
Hello, my name is Anish Vedantam. I'm an 8th grader. I've been doing Model UN for about, I would say, like 2 to 3 years now. And I started with Best Delegate in the summer of 2020. And from then, it's just been a lot of fun. I've signed up for a bunch of the programs, a bunch of the conferences, and I've even got to co-chair at a couple of the conferences. So Best Delegate has really increased my knowledge about Model UN and opened the door to a bunch more experiences through Model UN that I don't necessarily get just through my school.
Fabulous. Thank you so much for sharing. And now I really want to take any questions that parents have. I have a number of questions that were submitted in advance that we're going to have our panelists answer. But if you have any additional questions, please feel free to drop them into the chat and we will be sure to answer those as well. So one of the questions that we got, which I'd love to direct to one of our students, is was the program engaging virtually? My kid has been doing virtual learning for over a year now, and they're a little burnt out on Zoom. Is it really fun to participate in Model UN virtually?
Well, I absolutely think it's a lot of fun. There are always certain times where you are going to get burnt out, and I do feel that, but the mentors and the chairs and the crisis staff, everyone makes it so engaging so that you're always on your toes, you're always learning something new. And so, yes, I definitely think it's engaging. And while it might be hard to sit in front of a screen for another hour on a weekday or for 6 hours on a Saturday or Sunday, it is definitely worth it just for the amount of skills and the amount of fun that you have.
Thank you very much for sharing. And I'll share too, one of the sweet notes that I got from a student yesterday was about how coming to our program each week is the highlight of their week and what they look forward to each week. And so I definitely would say that I know this year is challenging with a lot of virtual and screen time, but the program is designed to be really engaging, really interactive, to be focused not on listening to lectures, but on participating in Model UN, a really engaging and fun activity. Another question.
Laurabeth,
Ryan, please feel that.
Just swing out of that. So I definitely think, yes, Zoom burnout is a real thing. I will also say, I think it's also just burnout from like unengaging or like less than exciting activities. As you already emphasized, Laurabeth, it's like we're very activity driven. I'll just point out like students could spend hours like on their phones or like playing games on a screen. And, yeah, you get burned out if you play like 6 hours of games, but they're fine like, sitting in front of a screen. And I think what we're trying to provide is definitely like it's like engaging and educational, right? And so instead of spending additional time on like social media, social networking, gaming, which I think are also all fine activities, it's like Model United Nations provides something that is like truly social. You are working with other students and educational about the world's biggest issues. And yes, you're on a screen. And I'll further add, that today in the world of work, as adults, right, we're all doing our work remotely. We're all doing it virtually right now. And that's also a skill that students are learning by doing Model United Nations. They all have to negotiate and collaborate and problem solve remotely. So I think the skills that they're learning now through virtual Model United Nations are even more applicable to the workplace than ever before.
Absolutely. Another key question that we got from parents was, what happens next? What happens after the summer programs? Are there opportunities for their child to continue with Model UN during the school year? Ryan, would you please share a little bit more about that?
Oh, absolutely. So for a student like an Anish and a lot of our students, the summer program is definitely like a hallmark of their Model UN career and experience, and it continues beyond. We offer conferences throughout the year, so monthly Model United Nations conferences, where students get to take the skills that they learned and that they honed over the summer, and then actually apply them at these conferences where now they need to do research, public speaking, negotiation, and like Anish, rise into leadership opportunities. Like Anish shared, where he got the chance to co-chair in Model UN Speak. This means facilitating or moderating one of our debates or one of our conferences. And so there's sort of like a leadership structure to Model United Nations, and I would say a leadership journey to MUN that students continue. And that's just the starting point, because we help them get to conferences, we host conferences, but then students learn to lead one another. And that's the beauty of Model United Nations, very student-led activity. And pretty soon they're moderating debates, or they're training their fellow students, their club or classmates, to attend conferences. And then at some point, even organizing their own conferences for their own schools. And so definitely there's a huge journey that continues beyond the Model United Nations Institute. But that summer is a great kickoff point. That is like the launching pad for beginning their Model UN journey throughout the school year.
Thanks, Ryan. And a related question we saw from parents is, how can my child get started with Model UN if they're new to MUN and just starting on that journey? Georgina, do you want to share a little bit more about that?
Absolutely. Model UN is a fantastic activity, and there is never a bad time, and it is never too late to immediately get started with that. Now, if your students are interested, even before our summer programs, at looking into Model UN and learning a little bit more, there are a ton of awesome, helpful training resources online, including training videos and guides that you can look into. At the same time, there are a number of really exciting training conferences, including our virtual conferences, that really help to show students what Model UN looks like and get them involved before those summer programs. So it's super easy to get started, and once students get started, it's hard to tear them away from Model UN.
Thanks, Georgina. And I'll add to that. It's great to start in summer, but if they want to get started even sooner or have that first experience, we do have training conferences in April that are going to be happening. And we'll drop the link in just a minute, but the deadline for those April training conferences is March 15th. So if we have any students that want to try out Model UN during the school year and then have that more immersive multi-day experience during the summer, that's another great opportunity as well before then. Another question that I see in the chat from Maria is, for high school students, how many ambassador classes do students usually do before trying Crisis? So we typically recommend about 2, but it just depends on each student. If your student has done multiple Model UN conferences before, they're welcome to do 1 ambassador program followed by a Crisis program. It really is an awesome create your own journey for our summer, because each week has different topics that might pique your students' interest. And it's a great way to, focus on things that you're interested in and want to learn more about. And related to that, Richard, can you tell us a little bit about some of the topics that you've seen students learn about through Model UN?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for that, Laurabeth. So in terms of the topics that we employ, and we have a ton of them, we have a database just full of background guides and just all these resources that we can use readily available. And I know this because I've personally written some of these background guides when I was working as a diplomacy fellow. But some of these topics could be very relevant to the lives that we live today. So for example, how to contain COVID-19, right? We're sitting at home. We all know that there's this massive problem outside our doors all over the world, and students are actually lent the agency to try and solve these issues, the world's biggest issues that some of our world leaders struggle to deal with. And I think it's incredibly empowering for students to actually be able to take on these issues head on. They may fail a couple of times, but it's all part of the learning process. Some of the other topics which I find are fascinating, for example, are nuclear disarmament, which I think is just a very core issue that has been at the agenda of the international community for decades. We also have a lot of fun topics as well, topics that aren't as traditionally, I would say, educational, but offers a ton of value in terms of giving students insights. Some of these crisis topics, I think Gio, what do you have in mind in terms of fun crisis topics that students have had the privilege to debate over the years?
There are definitely a ton of fun crisis topics that students have had the privilege to debate, including different White House administrations, including different issues that the US faces. One topic we've got this summer is misinformation and fake news, for example, and how that kind of had an impact on the recent election cycle. We also have the future of NATO as a topic, as well as conflicts in the Middle East. So we look across the globe as well as throughout different topics and focus points to really make sure that students can be creative and learn about all of these different topics and ideas.
I think one thing that's very common with our topics as well is that the United Nations have 7 organs. There's so many different specialized agencies, and experienced students who've been doing Model UN for a long time have had the opportunity to really debate the fine print and look into the details of each of these agencies and how they function. And what they'll walk away with is just a lifetime of knowledge on how international community works, how these massive organizations work, and how they can apply that to their academic and career aspirations.
Richard, I think you started to hit on my very next question, which is how does participating in Model UN help students grow? How does it transform students' experiences? And I know Georgina and Richard, you shared a little bit about yourselves and going from a less confident speaker to an incredibly confident speaker, ready to take on the world through the Peace Corps and through law school and everything else. But I'd love to ask that question to everybody to share a little bit about how you've seen students grow through Model UN. And Ryan, would you mind kicking us off a little bit on that one?
Oh man, I mean, the story that I love, and I know that you love Laurabeth, but Rebecca, she was such a sweet but shy sophomore coming from South Texas, and really smart, really sharp, but was afraid of public speaking, was afraid of getting in front of people. She did the Model United Nations Institute. She went back to her school, got really involved in Model UN, became a student leader there, eventually got elected as like president of the student body, and really applied herself. And in where she is in Texas, let's just say at one point it was one of the most impoverished areas in the country. It was really tough for people to get out of that part of the country to go to college. And they have a huge ceremony when people, announce their college decisions. And she got to walk across this big stage and unfurl this big banner that said Harvard University, full scholarship. And I like to think that Model UN was a part of that. And I think seeing that kind of transformation in students that I've seen in Rebecca and students around the world, that for me is the incredible part. Different cultures, different countries, but that transformation is what happens through Model United Nations.
Absolutely. And I'll share too that Rebecca went on to not only do really, really well at Harvard, but she actually came back and served as one of our Model UN mentors and is now a teacher full time. And so we have like an incredible set of students that learn and grow through Model UN, and many of whom are the types of students that are back at our programs and helping other students have that same kind of incredible learning experience.
And let me not forget, Laurabeth, she was your student, right? You were her mentor for that summer. Yeah, it's a pretty incredible impact.
And Rebecca is one of over 5,000 students that have really had a transformative experience through participating in our summer programs. I see another question in the chat that I'd love to answer. How many hours a day does a high schooler need for participating as a beginner? So what is the commitment from an hours perspective for the summer programs? And then what does it look like during the school year as well? Ryan, would you share a little more, please?
Sure. So one, for the summer programs, like all the work is designed to be done like as part of the program. So they're already, if you look online at the schedule, it's going to be Monday through Friday, and they've got those 3 hours each day, and everything that we need to do with them, they do it in there. If they are further incentivized outside of that time to do additional research, for example, like they may want to research their country, research their topic, then obviously they can contribute that time as well. But we've designed the program with this in mind, that like this is going to be part of their summer, it's part of their week. There's other things that you want them to be able to do throughout the week. And through their summer. So we want to just package it all within the program. And then during the school year, for our own virtual MUN conferences, we actually have a great study guide on this. We have a preparation guide that literally gives the students like a set of steps and checklists of like what to do to prepare for an MUN conference and suggested pacing. So Laurabeth, Georgina, correct me if I'm wrong on this one, but I believe you designed the time frame for that to be under like 2 hours or less in terms of like preparation time. And again, that's like minimum amount of preparation. I will say the beauty of Model UN is that obviously to the extent that you're willing to invest additional time to do the research, to do the preparation, the more you do get out of the activity. But I think, these days for students, there's so many, different just challenges on their time to at least have like that quality experience. That's why we set up these resources. That's why we make Model UN easy, so that with this this time investment of the 2 hours for a conference, it's highly effective. And at least they feel prepared like going into the conference, and then they get a lot out of that experience. And then obviously as they get more advanced, as they get more experience, they'll figure out their own like timing strategies for that.
Fabulous. And I also see the question about the optional extra coaching during the week. Is that packed in as well? Yes. So those additional sessions, there's 3 45-minute sessions if you choose to do the private coaching add-on. And those are during the same week that your student is participating in the virtual MUN Institute. And if so, their MUN mentor will help give them that additional feedback, which we've seen to be really, really valuable for students that really want to grow quickly and have that accelerating learning and opportunity. Great question. Another question that I see is about the fun. I think one of the things that a lot of students are missing this year is the opportunity to have fun and engage with friends and like-minded peers. So could we just talk a little bit more about the fun that happens at the program and what it's like to get to meet and make new friends from across the globe? Anish, would you share a little bit about the experience? Did you have the chance to make new friends, to have fun? What was that type of element of the program like for you?
So yes, I definitely had a lot of fun in the programs, as I mentioned earlier. And in terms of friends, absolutely. I did one of the programs over the fall and winter, and I'm still in contact with a lot of the people from that program. So yes, there is a lot of opportunity to have fun, to make friends, and the way the program and the conferences are all set up is so that you do have time for fun and you do have time for, interacting socially with people, even though it's through a screen.
Absolutely. Richard, would you share a little bit more about your perspective? I know you've been on the student side and on the teacher side. How is it as a student and as a teacher to create that really fun learning environment?
Totally, yeah. So I think the socialization aspect of Model UN is probably my favorite. It's what really sets the activity apart from other activities that are based on, research and public speaking. The first one that comes to mind would be debate, right? I think Model UN does a uniquely great job of allowing you to connect with other students. And I can speak from my personal experience as a student. When I was interacting with other students, I mean, I still keep in touch with some of the friends that I made. This is 6 years ago. And even the MUN mentor who ended up coaching me was one of the people that wrote my recommendation letters for law school. So these are people that you really do keep in touch with, and these are people that you're going to be able to rely on for a very long time for them to help you out with a favor and whatnot. It's a really tight-knit community, Model UN, and I think us like-minded folks just will stick together, right? And in terms of on the staff side, how we really make this activity, this program fun is, I think Ryan touched on it a little bit earlier, and Laurabeth as well, is just to make it super interactive, right? I don't think I can stress enough how different of an experience this is from a traditional classroom, right? The staffers are obviously having fun, right? There's great chemistry between staffers, and that kind of ricochets to students as well, who can see that their staffers are having fun. So it's contagious, right? It's infectious. And a lot of the and we shy away from calling these lessons, right? I mean, I've been as program manager, I've been talking to my staffers to not refer to these as classes, because that's really not what they are. They're more like meetings. They're more like team meetings. Most of our activities and most of our lessons are activity based. So students really learn through practicing and just through repetition, through just feedback coming from each other and just getting better as a collective unit. So I think that is what really makes it unique for sure.
Awesome. And related to this, one of the questions that we frequently see is, what does a typical week at the program look like? So Georgina, would you mind sharing what it looks like from a Monday to Friday and some of the types of activities that students will get to do throughout the week?
Absolutely. A typical week at the Model UN Institute is engaging from the first second your students enter that Zoom meeting. That first meeting is always going to start off with a fun energizer activity or an icebreaker so that all of the students can get to know one another and get comfortable with the students they'll be working with over the course of the week. From there, we start to really focus on building those skills. So that first day, we're going to move into focusing a little bit more on research and debate and playing a really fun public speaking game like the one we showed you earlier to really get students involved and get them speaking from that first day. From there, on that second day, we'll start to introduce them a little bit more to what a Model UN simulation looks like and give them all the tools they need to succeed. On that third day, we'll move into really boosting those skills, again, through resolution activities. And we've got this great game called Shark Tank that really allows them to push themselves and challenge themselves to lead. Then on those final 2 days, they'll participate in a final simulation. So stepping into the shoes of those leaders and those countries to, as diplomats, tackle these global issues and really work together throughout this whole experience to solve these problems as a group as they have fun while doing it.
Thank you, Georgina. So that's just a bit of a sense of what happens each week. So each week is a different and unique experience for students because each week we have a different topic and different games that will be integrated into the program to help them learn and grow. So we definitely recommend multiple weeks and multiple topics that pique your students' interest to help them have a really great and engaging, fun summer. Another question that I see is about scholarships. Are there any scholarships available and financial aid for students that need it? Ryan, would you mind sharing a little bit about that?
Yes, a limited amount of financial aid is available. We always make sure to create scholarships for students that are and families that are most in need to attend our programs. And for more information on that, we have a financial aid form on the website where we will ask families to obviously provide additional information to verify the financial aid. It is fairly limited, and it obviously just depends on the amount of need and how much we're able to provide. But we do put aside a budget for that. And for anyone who's interested in financial aid, I would encourage them to check out the form on the website.
Thank you very much, Ryan. And then I think if anyone else has any additional questions, please feel free to drop them in the chat. And if not, I'd love to just one more round with all of our panel participants. If you have any short favorite stories from the virtual MUN Institute that you want to share about like students learning or growing or just what kind of things were fun. If you have a favorite story or memory from teaching or being a student at the virtual MUN Institute, please feel free to share that. Georgina, would you like to go first?
Absolutely. So one brief story from last summer, I had a week where I was working with middle school students, and our topic for our final simulation was nuclear disarmament. And the students got so engaged and so involved to the point where every morning they'd come back and they'd be like, oh, I talked to my mom and dad about this, and I learned this about the topic. So one of my students actually came back the next day and she was like, so it turns out her family's Iranian. She was like, my mom actually participated in a freeze the weapons movement back in the day. And she wrote this really cool postcard that she actually sent into a newspaper, and it was published as part of this event. So her mom actually shared that with her. And she brought that into our class and shared it with all of the other students who were super excited to see this real world connection to the topic. And Dahlia had learned something that she didn't know about her family before either. So it was really cool to see those takeaways from the program and see students really continue to engage with that topic matter outside of our time together as well.
Awesome. Thank you, Georgina. Ryan, do you have a favorite memory from the virtual MUN Institute that you'd like to share with everyone?
You know, this is a year since the beginning of the pandemic when like everything changed. And, you know, it's March right now. And I remember for us, right, transitioning from traditionally to these programs in person to virtual, and I think the rest of the world, and obviously I think your families and children were doing that as well. And I remember thinking like, okay, let's see how this works. And although we had done like online teaching before, we did do this at scale. And I just remember, you know, sitting here watching like the first online debate and like the students taking turns, giving their speeches and like looking at what they had written down and just reading their faces like on Zoom and just, I was like, they're going through like on an emotional level, like the same thing that they would feel like in a traditional Model UN experience in person or not. I remember watching that speech and watching them like write resolutions and negotiate and figuring this out. And then going through the rush and the thrill and like the ups and the downs of like writing resolutions and getting them passed and like debating them and then voting on them. And at the end of it, I was like, this is not a substitute for Model United Nations. This is Model United Nations, that whether it happens in person or virtual, that the outcomes around these key skills and their confidence and their leadership are the same. And we're just learning to do it in different modalities and different environments. And I remember that first debate, that's what I remember from like seeing the students go through it and seeing them get to the same outcomes that we would want to get to in person. That for me means that I think Model United Nations like works virtually. And I think Model UN matters more than ever. And that for me was like the key moment a year ago from like almost today.
Thank you, Ryan, so much for sharing. It does feel like a year has flown by, but I think it's been amazing to see students continue to learn and grow, especially during this challenging year. Anish, would you please share? Do you have a favorite memory from summer or any of the Model UN programs that you've participated in?
Well, I have had a bunch of amazing experiences, and while mine are not as powerful and sentimental, one of my favorite experiences was getting the opportunity to co-chair in a conference. It was a UN Security Council conference about peacekeeping in Africa. And the way that conference was, or sorry, I guess the committee was organized, and just the dynamics of what happened, and seeing what the crisis staff came up with for crisis updates and reading some of the crisis notes, all of those, it was just a great experience that sort of reignited my passion for Model UN. And yeah, that was probably one of my favorite experiences with Model UN and with Best Delegate.
Thank you very much, Anish. And Richard, would you also please share a favorite memory?
Yeah, awesome. Honestly, I have so many stories to share. And I think through this call, one of the main takeaways is that, whether it is myself or Georgina, started off being really shy, used Model UN to really draw ourselves out of our shell. I think my favorite story actually comes with a student who wasn't shy at all. This was not an ordinary student. He was very, very confident in himself. And he was a very great speaker, super eloquent, albeit a little aggressive. And I think working with this student, seeing him being so aggressive and seeing his low point come, in which he really tried to rally to get his resolution passed, but because some of his antics came off as being a little too aggressive, saw that his resolution failed. And obviously he was very upset about this whole ordeal, and having a really nice conversation with him just to get him to understand just how Model UN works. What does it mean to be collaborative? What does it mean to compromise? And sometimes it might not be best to really just ram your ideas home without really taking into consideration what other people feel, and seeing that transformation with that student, that sort of light bulb go off in his head, and then 2 days later, seeing him work so collaboratively with the other Dels, trying to strike compromises in order to actually get his bills passed, and understanding that this was a student that truly have gone through this sort of transformative, not just in Model UN, but in his life as well. I think that was something that really just puts a smile on my face every time I think about it. So that must be my favorite one. So the Virtual Model United Nations Institute. Sorry.
Thank you very much, Richard, for sharing. And I'll say too, like everyone here today, I have so many memories of students being transformed into more confident individuals, but I'll also share that some of my favorite memories are the aha moments that students have had participating in the program, where they may have never met someone from a certain country or may have had certain preconceived notions about a certain topic. And when they actually stepped into that topic and had to represent a country that they may not agree with, it really opened their point of view to understanding how and why people may look at topics from different perspectives. And I think I've seen so many cool moments around gender equality and around peace in the Middle East and around different topics that are really controversial, with students having breakthroughs in understanding how and why people may believe different things, but ultimately how we can still work together to create positive change. So thank you all so much for sharing some of those memories. I think my biggest takeaway there is It is fun, but it is also incredibly empowering and a life-changing experience for so many students that do Model UN. So thank you again to all of our panelists. I'd love to wrap up in the next 5 minutes by sharing just a little bit more about our programs, and if you have any questions, how you can follow up with us as well. So today during our meet and greet, you got to hear from these amazing panelists. We also have a awesome set of staffers beyond them as well. And I just want to highlight a few of the awesome staff that we have. The people that run our program go on to do amazing things in the real world, as do our alumni. We have staffers that are now working at the World Trade Organization, at the White House, in the Peace Corps, at top consulting firms, and in incredible universities all over the world. So I just want to share that our mentors love Model UN. They love getting to work with your students, and they are already super excited for an amazing summer this year. And if you want to hear more about our program from our parents, or you still have questions after our program, please feel free to email us in, and we're happy to put you in contact with a parent that has had their student attend our program. And here are a couple of just testimonials from parents who have had their students do our program. Reed shared that our daughter has gained so much confidence and experience by participating in Best Delegate programs over the past 2 years. The counselors are fun, helpful, and supportive, and meeting kids from other parts of the world was great. We highly recommend this program. Amy shared that the MUN camp was the only virtual camp in which my son was enthusiastically engaged from the first moment. Already a confident speaker, he received useful feedback to improve his presentation and content. And long after the time wrapped each day, he was still engaged in the content by talking about it and researching it. And Leah shared, we have now had 3 experiences with the virtual MUN Institute, and the experience for my child is consistently excellent. He looks up to all of his instructors, is always challenged, and always improves his skills and abilities each session. So I just wanted to share some of these takeaways from parents, because we really are focused on ensuring that students have a great experience and that parents also have a great experience with us as well. And parents are also welcome to attend our open house at the end of program and get to see students in action, how much they've learned and grown throughout the experience. And if you're ready to go ahead and sign up for our programs, we do have an early registration deadline of March 15th. If you want to get the best deal of the year, you can save $75 off on every week of our programming by using the code SUMMERMUN21 when you check out on our website, learnmodelun.com. So I just want to say thank you again to all of you for taking the time to join us today. We really are passionate about Model UN and helping students have a great, fun learning experience. And we hope to see many of your students at the MUN Institute this summer.